welcome everyone to another episode of the Footy Game Day Squad show. I'm your host Cal, and joining me today I've got Kerm and I've got Tom. Gentlemen, how are we this afternoon?
I'm swell. I'm keen to start talking some round 7 footy.
And mate, I can be in heaps better, hey. So many uni assignments right now in the midterm, just getting pumped, but keen to talk about footy and get my mind off it.
Yeah, absolutely. We were just saying off how you're getting pumped, and I was giving you guys both a bit of stick because your Boston Celtics in the NBA and the playoffs at the moment also got pumped. But I can't talk too much there. But we're here, guys, to talk about fantasy. And, of course, we're here because of GameDay Squad, which is currently Australia's only fantasy sport platform currently using blockchain technology. So if you are new to the channel, all our descriptions, everything's below. Go check out GameDay Squad. We're really excited with the platform we've got. Not everything is complete yet, but we are going to be having some big announcements coming very soon. So really excited to be able to share those with you guys. But we are here to do our review show of round 7. And guys, it was a pretty good round of footy. Watched a fair few games and some really entertaining ones. But we're going to start things off like we normally do, and that's with what we got right and what we got wrong. So who wants to kick it off?
I'll kick us off here. And I took a little bit of a risk, but we spoke about Josh Dunkley a lot a couple of shows ago and how good he's been in the midfield and how he's not getting the recognition he deserves, both from us and probably the fantasy community, because we do have him as a midfielder in our game, whereas other platforms have him as a forward line player where he's almost a lock. But I'm really stoked I decided to put Dunkley into the guts of my Rolling Dream Team squad. He had a really good game against the Essendon Bombers, having 29 disposals, 16 of those being kicks, 6 marks, 6 tackles, and 2 goals to go with it. Just normal Josh Dunkley things. So, yeah.
I wouldn't be surprised if he had 16 marks because
neither would I at this point. Neither would I at this point. But in an engine room where it's very deep, Josh Dunkley is shining right now, up forward and in the middle. But on the flip side, where I got things maybe a little bit wrong, I sort of suggested that Jeremy Cameron of the Geelong Cats would sort of go back to his GWS roots and become a fantasy relevant option again, and it just did not kick on to be that way. He kicked no goals against Freo, and he sort of went missing a lot. He went six kicks, 8 handballs, 4 marks, and 2 tackles. Not really a Jeremy Cameron day. Very quiet, especially with no goals. So when they needed him most, he went quiet, and when fantasy owners needed him most, he went quiet as well.
Yeah, and coming off a 7-goal game as well, like blitzed it last week, and you're too right. Just went a bit quiet. I'll flip over to what I got right and got wrong from this week. And what I got right is that Jake Stringer still hasn't gotten over 90 Game Day Squad fantasy points in a single game, which still astonishes me, even saying it. I put him in the hot seat last... Yeah, I know. And I put him in the hot seat last preview show, and I was a little bit nervous about doing it because I know the potential of him, how good he can be. But man, he is not living up to the fantasy value that people had him at pre-season this year. And fantasy managers are definitely not happy with the production that they've gotten from him so far in 2022. So we'll see what happens there if he can turn it around. But hasn't been a great start for old Jake Stringer.
No, him and the Bombers been struggling big time. So it's a good one.
And what I got wrong. Didn't publicly come out and say it, but you guys know I am a Swans fan, and I was feeling pretty confident heading into round 7. Sunday at the SCG was at the game, and Joe Danaher went down early, and I thought that was huge and that we could capitalise on that, him being out, but that wasn't the case. The Brisbane Lions are one of the best teams in the comp. They showed it out there at the SCG on Sunday. They are on a roll, and that is what I got wrong heading into round 7.
Yeah, the Swannies didn't look good, but the namesake of the Footy GDS Game Day show is Cal, and Callum Mills had a great game again. He is becoming a serious fantasy stud.
Yeah, if the Swans could kick straight in the first quarter and finish some goals, mate, it could have been a different game. But I'll tell you what, it's tough watching.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was a very strange game to watch. That Buddy Blitz was awesome, but outside of that, just the Swans just weren't there, which was a little bit disappointing because, we expected a little bit better from them. But what I got right, I told you that Max Gorn was going to be a set and forget ruckman for the rest of 2022, and I've nailed it since I gave you that take. So obviously he had a slow start to the year, but then since there he scored 100 plus GDS points in every single game and is now clearly the number 1 ruck in the comp. No Grundy to pick from, and since I told you 3 weeks ago to go get him, set and forget, he's combined for 350 GDS points, which is massive. So
just quietly, as you do.
Just want to put it out there. Had him in my best 18 from the start of the season. But I'm glad you guys are here, mate.
You got your own segment. What I got wrong, though, was I told you that Canelio was done as a fantasy player in our review show. The end of off-season show when we spoke about the Giants. And I just said a good season for him was going to be him making the team every week and not necessarily performing. But not only has he made the team every week, but he's starting to put in some really big fantasy scores. So he's not back to the 18-19 form when they were knocking around playing finals, but he's flirting with 100 average at the moment. And what this does mean, and what this is really good for a GameDay squad, if you've got a diamond or you've got a platinum or even the 1-of-1 legend card, all of a sudden he is now very much a fantasy relevant player in your team if you have one of those cards. So I've got a platinum Canelio, so I never thought I'd be using him, but yeah, never know when our season does kick off, he might find his way into my team if he keeps this up. So
absolutely,
yeah, bloody
sure. It's a very good thing to be wrong about, though, because we love seeing Canelio play his best footy. He's one of the best footy players to watch for me when he's at his best.
Yeah, I wish I'd talk about him more, but I just can never say his last name properly, so I try and avoid it as much as I can.
Alright guys, and before we get into studs and duds, if you can do us all a huge favour here at GameDay Squad, smash that like button on the video, subscribe to the channel. We have so much fantasy content coming out for you, helping you guys get game day ready. And as Callum said before, we got all of our links in the description. Check it out if you don't know what we're talking about. GameDay Squad. Callum, I heard you got some news for the listeners here, mate. I'll throw it over to you.
Yeah, more just a few things that we've got going on. So we do have some big announcements coming on very, very shortly. So the best way to stay in touch with that is obviously our socials, but obviously our Discord as well. A lot of people can ask questions, hear what's coming on, where are our priorities at the moment with development, things like that. So if you're not on our Discord, please go ahead and jump on there. Great place to also show off your team, see how everything's going there as well. And the other thing I was going to say is we've started producing a few TikToks. I think I touched on the last one. So if you're on TikTok, go check us out. Give us a subscribe over there as we're going to try and start doing a little bit more fun stuff. So, yeah. Right, and on to right and wrong. Studs and duds. You're going to kick it off, I believe, Tom. You've got game one.
Yeah, I sure do, mate. So game one, it was the West Coast Eagles versus the Richmond Tigers. And my goodness, this scoreline, 165 to the Tigers, 56 to the West Coast Eagles. A tough day in the office.
11.5 points.
Yeah, it was.
At the start of the game.
Yeah.
I know a few people, gamble responsibly, but geez, I know a few people that loaded up on that. Wow.
Mate, it was a tough day in the office, to say the least, for West Coast trying to contain the Richmond Tigers players. And the best of them all out there was Tom Lynch. And we've given him a bit of stint this year, but 178 Game Day Squad fantasy points in this one. He was a star. Of course, it's against a struggling West Coast. We've touched on their team situation before. But Lynch's game line for this one was 17 kicks, 2 handballs, 14 marks, 2 tackles, 7 goals, 5 behinds to go with that as well. Just crazy to think that he had 176 whilst kicking 5 behinds.
Some easy
Unreal
misses
game.
too. Some really easy misses. He got out a massive day on his 200th game too.
You're too right. And on the flip side with the dud, Liam Ryan, he spent nearly all time on ground. It was 101 minutes out of the maximum 124. He was only able to score 34 Game Day Squad fantasy points in this one, finishing with a game line of 4 kicks, 0 handballs, 2 marks, a tackle, a goal, and a behind. Yeah, tough day. We'll move on to game 2, hey?
Yeah, for all those Eagles fans out there, for your sake, we'll move on. Game 2, I had the Cats and Dockers. Now, this was a really, really good game, and fantasy aside, I think the Dockers really made a statement here. But the start, I've still got to give it to our boy, Tom Stewart, who had a massive day, particularly because there was a lot of footy back there. So 28 kicks, 14 marks, and 188 GDS points that you can see there. Huge game. And yeah, I was going to say, even though that they got beat, he is absolutely a lock for one of your defensive 6 players at the moment, the way he's playing. So if you do not have Tom Stewart, go and get him, because he is just a genuine stud. On the flip side, you spoke about him before, dud Jeremy Cameron. 7 goals last week and 3 before that. Maybe you were starting to think that Jeremy Cameron was the answer, but he crashed back to earth. Only 56 GDS points, no goals, and only 6 kicks. Was a very bad fantasy day for him. So, my dud of the game.
Yeah, for sure. And I'll take us into game 3 here, where GWS met the Adelaide Crows and spanked them. A lot of tippers had Adelaide Crows in this one. This was a bit of a surprise and an upset here, but the big reason for that was Josh Kelly, who had himself an insane day. 41 disposals, 21 kicks, 20 handballs, 3 marks, 2 tackles, and a behind to go with it. He had an absolutely incredible day, and that was enough for 155 GDS fantasy points. And on the flip side, this was someone that I've sort of grown to like and have a bit of a soft spot for, but Josh Rochelle sort of had a stinker, and it's sort of becoming a theme now where he has these massive, massive days where he can kick a bag, but then he just goes missing out of nowhere, and he only had 11 disposals, 5 kicks, 6 handballs, 2 marks, and 4 tackles with no goals, which was only enough for 50 GDS fantasy points. We're going to want to see more from him as a dynasty platform in the future.
Yeah, I think that's back-to-back weeks for him now, duds. So
Stinkers.
Which sucks for rookies, but hey, we did have high hopes for him, so I can see your logic for that one. Tom, you've got game 4, which was the Melbourne Hawthorn game, which was another really good game of footy. Hawthorn just wouldn't go away. But who did you have as your stud for that one?
Mate, I'll tell you what, there was a lot of excitement putting together this studs and duds list. I got 3 fire games just quietly. So let's go through it. Demons won in this one, 91 to 81. 10 points the difference in this. Very close game. Really lived up to the hype as well. I thought it was going to be a cracker, and they delivered on both ends there. But my start of the game, it's Max Gawn. I don't think we've stopped talking about this guy since after week 2. Exactly right, man. 175 GameDay Squad fantasy points. Finishing with a line of 19 kicks, 10 handballs, 6 marks, 3 tackles, 2 goals, and 35 hit outs. The big fella just would not stop all day. Unreal.
How about
game.
those goals? Kicking them from 50.
Yeah.
Like, it looks like Buddy. He just, when he's out there, it's insane.
He can just launch it, man. Just titter far.
Yeah.
Great
I
game
saw
for
who you
him.
got as your dud.
And the dud of the
Talking
game,
about you.
Jack Gunston. Exactly
Your
right,
boy.
mate. It's my boy.
Yeah.
Oh, he was. He's dropped out of the best 18 or 22 now, whatever you want to call it. Finishing the game with 61 GameDay Squad fantasy points. Had a line of 9 kicks, 9 handballs, 3 marks, 0 tackles, 0 goals, and 3 behinds. So kicking some goals there definitely would have helped buffer that score up. Unfortunately, couldn't do it on the day. And, in such a close loss as well, that could have been the difference in it. And maybe that would have had Hawthorn on top. So, yeah, tough day for Gunston. Maybe he looks to turn it around soon.
Yeah, one to watch, right? Started off hot, but just hasn't been the same player that burst out in round 1. Game 5, game you're at, Kerm, up in Kazali. A very hot and wet game up there where my power got the job done, which was fantastic. But I've given my stud to a Saint, and that was Seb Ross. So it was tough for Stewart to miss out because he had an awesome game as well, not just fantasy-wise. But Ross was the highest GDS scorer, 140 points, and he did that with 24 kicks, 7 handballs, and 4 tackles. So 4 games in a row now, this guy's got 100+, and he did start off with a couple of very slow weeks, but he's starting to build some nice form, and it's a few more games like that, and I reckon he has to start being in more people's team because he's becoming very, very consistent, and the Saints obviously had a really good start to the year, and with them playing well and him playing well, it's a nice little combo with him and Jack Steele. My dud, what I'm trying to do with my photo there, I know you guys have been sitting there being like, where am I going with this? But I wanted to give it to every single forward, all the key forwards, because I just thought, with how inaccurate both teams were. So I've got a stat of the week, but I'm going to keep that for the preview show when I do my stat of the week section. But I'll list you some scores of some of the notable forwards for the teams because these guys any one of them could have got a dud. So Georgiades from Port, 33 points. Jeremy Finlayson, 35. Todd Marshall, I have 24, but I don't think that's correct. I think it might have been like 44 or something like that. Again, not great. Maxi King, 55, and Membry, 65. So just a lot of points left on the board there. When you put up 31 behinds, that 31 behinds, change them to goals. That's an extra 250 GDS points to sprinkle out. So, all those key forwards definitely. If you had any one of them, you'd have been very disappointed.
Yep. 2 right there, hey. Wow. That many points to spread out. My goodness.
It was a gross game.
Sprinkle a few points. Yeah, that'd be nice.
Such a gross game. And another gross game I'll talk about is Carlton versus North Melbourne, who North Melbourne actually showed some guts here and were in it for a little bit, but Carlton went away and kicked on, winning 114 to 64. But my studs and duds out of this game are two blokes that have sort of cemented their spots in these positions. My stud, I'll start off with the positive, is Paddy Cripps. He's always going to be a stud, almost week in, week out.
Oh, yeah.
35 disposals, a goal, 13 kicks, 22 handballs, 4 marks, and 4 tackles. The guy is just on fire. You can't keep him out of the studs column here, and is probably firmly favourite to be the Brownlow medalist, take home the Charlie.
Can we give it to him?
I honestly, at this point, yes. Yeah,
Going early.
Yeah, we should have what the Dally M has and have like a rolling table for the first part of the season. But yeah, if that was the case, then the AFL Cripper would be firmly up the top. And unfortunately, the dud, again, we're going to speak about him, is Jack Siebel. He had an absolute stinker again. He only had 12 touches, and for Jack Siebel, that's low. He played forward and back. He kicked it behind, but he only had 6 kicks, 6 handballs, and 6 marks. No tackles for Jack Siebel. That is absolutely unheard of. A couple of seasons ago, that would not have happened at all, not even in the slightest. So it's not the Jack Siebel we once had, and with age showing and a struggling North Melbourne outfit, we're going to be seeing a lot more of this, I think, as we've spoken about in previous shows.
You know, free my man Zeeble. Get him back as a defender. Fantasy managers out there, my goodness, please. Like, we've seen how good he can be there, and just to see him put up forward and just stuck in the forward line, it sucks. It really does.
Yeah.
I love, Kerm, how you're talking about the different lists, or what you're saying with Cripps, the Dally M board, because I remember a few shows ago I said I would get a rolling studs and duds, and we can see how many times we've given studs and duds to.
Yeah.
Haven't got around to it. I promise I will get around to it. But I reckon Cripps is easily number one.
Yeah.
Him and maybe Bailey Smith second, but Zeeble is easily the dud. He's been there like 4 times now in 8
Hey,
rounds.
don't it? Count up my boy Maxi Goren. He'll be up there with old Cripsy.
He'll be coming.
Yeah, him too.
He'll be coming.
Let us know in the comments who you think's going to be up there.
Yeah, and who do we think is going to stay up there as well?
Yeah.
We want to see you guys get involved. Let us know, because we think we know a little bit, but we always want to know a little bit more. And we also want to be told when we're getting things wrong. So
Yes.
please do let us know.
Yeah,
Tom,
absolutely.
Game 7, your last one.
Yep, Collingwood Magpies versus the Gold Coast Suns in this one. Magpies won it 115 to 90. Suns put up a really good effort in this one. They put up a good fight, just couldn't get over the line in the end. Quite unfortunate. But someone that Callum gave some stick to a couple of weeks ago, Tuke Miller, is back into his fantasy stardom form. He had a game line. Oh, mate, listen to this. This is exciting stuff. Game line of 21 kicks, 15 handballs, 4 marks, 6 tackles, 2 goals, and 168 GameDay Squad fantasy points. Now, that is the Tuke Miller the fantasy managers got this year, and that's exactly what they're expecting. So we'll see if he can keep up that sort of form, because that is awesome from a player like him. My dud, he's come up a couple times in the review show, It's Jordan De Goey. 64 GameDay Squad fantasy points in this one, and he just had a slow game. He played 119 out of the total 124 available minutes in this game, but only finished with a line of 6 kicks, 5 handballs, 2 marks, 4 tackles, a goal, and 2 behinds. His season has been so up and down, and if you've been able to pick the games that he's played well and take him out in the others, maybe you're not as mad at Jordan De Goey, but I'm going to assume most fantasy managers don't know when to be taking him out and are not very happy with the form De Goey is in right now.
Yeah. I wish I could take back last week's Rolling Dream Team segment in the preview and just keep Tuke Miller there, because I think we're going to be seeing more of him at his best. So
Yes, sir.
there's no undo buttons in GDS fantasy, so
I had that marked down to talk about in the preview show, because you'd finally let go of him, and he's gone and done that.
yeah.
That
that's
is
what you
just
get.
salt in the wounds for a Suns fan. We won't talk about how the result made you feel. We'll move on to the next game. And guys, Kerm, you gave Dunkley some love, and I told you in the last preview show that we need to start giving him some more love, and the love tour continues, because he's my stud of the game. He was massive. 156 GDS points. Season high kicks, 16, and goals, 2, which went along with 6 marks and 6 tackles to get him that score. So when forwards we got him down as a mid, but when mids are scoring goals, that's what we want from them, because goals obviously counting for a few more points than in normal traditional AFL fantasy. Now, dud though. The truth was that there was probably no real player that I could have given this to. There was no fantasy relevant player that had a poor game. There were poor games from people, but if you had picked them, probably not players you shouldn't be picking them, put it that way. But I've given it to someone probably more who's having a rough time and a bit of a dud of a time at the moment. That's Dylan Shield. Hell of a week. So he was dropped, set to play in the twos, then was called up as the injury sub, emergency sub, came on to play, and then he actually played really well when he was on. So time on ground, 39%, and he was able to score 50 plus GDS points in that time. But there is a bit of news around that he's like being circled by a few other clubs in the trade window at the end of the year, and he's having his worst his worst GDS fantasy season of his career, and that includes both his debut season and the COVID year.
And the COVID year.
Whoa. So he's having a really poor year. So Caniglio has taught me not to write him off, but yeah, he's dudding it up big time at the moment, and he's who I've given it for this game.
Yeah, well, he's on a massive contract, so he's going to be a big name to watch in the off-season. Even if he makes it to the off-season, he could get traded mid-season. And there's a lot of teams, I think, who could use his services in the midfield, because at Essendon it seems to be Parrish, Merritt, McGrath and Hobbs who are taking that midfield role completely. So there's not a lot of space for him now.
Yeah, there's not. Who would have thought? But, Kerm, I will throw to you. You've got the last game.
I do have the last game, and this was touted as one of the best games of the year going into it, but the Lions ended up pulling away. The Swannies were sort of hot and cold, and Tom, you can speak about this if you disagree, but the Swannies, they got blew out, came back, started getting blown out again, and then came back towards the end, but the Lions ended up winning by 24, 113 to 89, and the star of the game was probably Paddy Cripps' Charlie's sort of dark horse, like, biggest threat to it is Lachie Neale, which he had 37 disposals, 1 goal, 15 kicks, 22 handballs, 3 marks, and 9 tackles to go with it, and that was good enough for 157 GDS fantasy points. He looks back to his best. He looks so electric out there.
I'm pretty sure watching the game there was 2 Lachie Neales out there, mate, because he was just everywhere, like just an absolute magnet finding the footy.
Yeah,
it was massive.
Incredible.
And the Lions... I was just going to say, and on that, before you get into your dud, the Lions don't have sort of that second player right now who's killing it. So Lions isn't like racking them up or McCluggage, like the players that we thought would be big fantasy players. They haven't been what they have been in the past. So maybe that does open up a few more votes for him, because obviously Cripps has to deal with someone like Walsh beside him. So yeah, one to watch. Does have me a little bit worried.
Yeah, absolutely is one to watch. And someone who took some votes off him last week was Zach Bailey, but he didn't replicate that at all against the Swannies here. He went absolutely missing. He only had 12 disposals, 1 goal, 9 kicks, 3 handballs, 1 mark, and 3 tackles, which only got him to 63 GDS fantasy points. So, stark contrast to what he was last week, where he was man of the match by a country mile, and he just went missing again here against Sydney.
And any final thoughts on the game, Tom?
Nah, Kerm said it perfectly. It was just momentum swings either way. We just... down bad early, couldn't kick straight in front of goal, unfortunately, put ourselves in a hole and could just never climb out of it. Some positives to take out of it, but you know what? The scoreline wasn't too great in the end, and they definitely touched us up.
Yeah, you're right. And there's not many games where Buddy can kick 6 and the Swans still look that poor. So, yeah, we'll see how they bounce back next week. Alrighty guys, 2 more segments left to go. The first one here is our rolling all GDS team for the year, where it's pretty much our all-Australian team. We have a look at what players are currently in the best 22 at the moment. And I'm going to go line by line with this one here. I'm going to start with the forwards, and you can see Nick Martin is in the team, and the player that has been dropped for him was Errol Goulden. So... Nick Martin, yeah. So your boy Errol Goulden from the Swans dropped out. But what do you think of that, Tom? I know you're a big Nick Martin fan, and you've been on him for quite a while.
Yeah, mate. You know, after his monster round 1 performance, I put him in the rest 18, my rolling dream team in the preview show, and wasn't too impressive in rounds 2 and 3. But he's just climbing his way back up, finding ways to impact games and score big fantasy points, bringing that average straight back up to a top 6 forward in the league, which is huge to see. Such a young player, and when you've got a dynasty league like we do here, like we facilitate a GameDay Squad, he is someone you have to keep your eye on and trying to snag him up before he's too expensive.
Yeah, that's a good one. That's definitely a good one. Apologies for the dog going crazy in the background if you can hear that. For mids, so Mills, we were just speaking about before, and Neale have both jumped into the team, with Boak falling off and Steele also moving out as well. So What do you think of those two changes? Some big names coming in, but a couple dropping out there.
Yeah, those are some massive names dropping out. I don't think that's the end of Steele for this. I think we'll be seeing him again at some stage throughout the season, firmly making his way into the midfield position here. But the midfield spots, those are some highly contested positions, so look out for him to come back.
Yeah, I second Cam's comment as well. I think Steele is plenty left. No, right there.
Speak over top. I was going to say, unlike other games, we've only got the 5 midfield spots. So, yeah, even though they are very high scoring, you have to pick very carefully which ones you want. And no changes with the rucks. Everyone knows what's happening.
No surprise there either, mate. With the way he's been playing.
He's still there.
Still there. And Timmy English, still on the bench, still playing well there.
Insane.
And final line for defence. So Hewitt to the bench. Witherden is out. And Stewart, of course, comes in, who we spoke about before. So they're the changes for this week. Some good names coming in, but also a few names dropping out there as well. So I think our last segment now we're going to move on to, and I think, Kern, you're going to kick things off. We are doing buy, sell, and hold. Who have you got?
Yes, I am kicking us off here. And my buy for this week is Noah Anderson. He was my lock in the review show, and we'll talk about that in the next review show going into it. But he's quickly becoming one of my favourites to watch, and one of my favourites in fantasy as well. So he fits the mould as a fantasy player who is going to be good for a very long time. He's young. He's starting to find the footy as well as anybody else. And I might have my son's glasses on, but I really like the way he goes about his footy. So I would go out and buy Noah Anderson if you can. Someone I'm selling is the package, Jake Stringer. We've spoken about him a few times in a couple of shows, and I think I said in the preview show that I think we know who Jake Stringer is now as a fantasy asset, and I don't think we're going to see him be a consistent fantasy relevant option again in his career at 28, playing less midfield time, playing less football time, because he is a little bit injury prone now, in and out of side. So I would be selling Jake Stringer while you can and while you have that name still there.
Good call.
And someone I'm holding is an ex-Suns player. It's Will Brodie. And he's shining now that he has the opportunity. We speak about all the time the simple equation of opportunity equals production. And now that he has that at Freo, it seems like he's really going to be a fantasy option going forward. He's young, he's durable, and he's showing promise, but last week it just wasn't his best, so I would hold on to Will Brodie as best you can.
He's a weapon. I like that. Don't get rid of him if you've got him, because he's going to be a gun. Over to you, Tom.
Yeah, mate. My buy now player is James Sicily, and he has scored 95 plus GameDay Squad fantasy points in every single game he has played this year. His floor for fantasy is huge at 95 points there. If you're looking for a defender who has high usage and is going to get plenty of the footy every single game, then look no further than James Sicily. Put him in your lineup. He is going to be a set and forget defender for you for the rest of the season. My sell, and it's a bit contradicting what a couple of people said before, but it's Thomas Stewart. And after having a monster game against the Freo Dockers, this is the perfect time to sell high in my eyes.
Thomas.
Controversial.
Very controversial, but I looked at the start of the season it wasn't so great. Yes, he's picked up from there, but if I can pick up some other players like Sicily and get some extra players in other positions, like the midfield or the forwards, if you're looking a bit thin, that is a move that I'm looking to make, trying to do a 2-for-1, something like along the lines of that. As you mentioned before, 188 GameDay Squad fantasy points in this game. If you want to hang on to him for an extra week or two to see if his value is going to continue to rise and then pull the trigger on this, I actually don't mind that decision at all. But I feel like this is a player that you want to sell high now and look for the future.
Wow. If that is you, please hit me up. I will buy all your Tom Stewart cards.
Hit me up.
Starting with yours, Tom. Do you have a Tom Stewart card?
Oh, mate, I don't know. It might be too expensive for you. I'm not sure.
Yeah.
Selling his fellow Tom.
Selling my fellow Tom.
1-for-1 Gunston.
Yeah, give me that. Give me the legend Gunston and you've got him. So.
I wish.
And my hold. Let's get into hold. Last one here. Marcus Bontempelli. Now, he's not filling up the stat sheet with top-tier numbers, as we've seen from him do in years prior. But with the Western Bulldogs having a below-average start for the season, I would say, I'm looking at a player like Bont, and I'll be holding on to him. I'm not too concerned about his production moving forward. We know if the Bulldogs are going to turn things around and become a top-4 team again in the AFL, which I'm thinking they will, The midfield is going to be a huge part of this, and Bontempelli, as the team's leader, will be the catalyst for this surge in play. Hang on to him. There's no need to panic now. You should never panic about a player like Marcus Bontempelli anyway. But his best footy's ahead of him this year, that's for sure.
I like that.
I like that a lot.
And I'm going to go straight to mine. I'm going to start with my hold because, Tom, I've done the exact same thing. Hold your Marcus Bontempellis. So he's still averaging 100 GDS points at the moment for the season, and he hasn't looked like the player that's going to break out and have a big 150-point game for you. But COVID year aside, it's his third lowest fantasy production year since 2014. But like you said, I back him to bounce back. With the Dogs, I just hope it's not this week against Port. Maybe the week after would be nice. And also staying on the buy, Tom, I've finally come around. I'm on your side with Nick Martin. I'm finally buying
Let's
him.
go.
Burst onto the scene, and I was with these rookies. You never know. It's easy to get sucked into them when they burst on the scene, like a Josh Rochelle and those type of guys. But this guy's a little bit older. He was rookie listed. He's 21, but he's not had a single score no scores in the last 6 games under 75, and he's averaging 95 for the season. In a Bombers team that isn't that good at the moment.
That's all right, hey.
Yeah, so he's been just super consistent, which, you'll take a bit of a lower score if you know you're going to get that week in, week out performance. Like Rochelle might be able to have 150. I don't know if Martin would be able to have another one. I think that was very much a very lucky round 1 game, but yeah. He's someone that I'm definitely getting on the train with, Tom. So yeah, I'm paddling over to Nick Martin Island with you.
Love that. And we talk about Essendon as well. Sorry, they're a little bit inconsistent. So having good and consistent fantasy production can be hard on a team like Essendon right now. And for such a young player to step up and do what he's doing, that's really good signs early in his career. So again, we're a dynasty platform. I love your pick. That's a player you have to be looking at.
Yeah. We don't have his card. You'll see him there as he doesn't have a card, so we won't. When we did our teams at the end of the year, he didn't make the cut, but we're not alone. I know AFL.com still don't have a face for him yet, so yeah, we like them. We need to make sure we get him in our game as soon as possible. My final one, guys, is my sell for Mitch Duncan. It's a big call, I know, but at 30, he just hasn't been the elite forward that he was last year. And an average of 90 isn't terrible, but kind of like what Tom was kind of thinking about with Tom Stewart. We've gone very similar with these, Tom. I think this might be the last chance to really sell high on him. And it's just for a player like Martin. If I could sell a Mitch Duncan and bring in a Nick Martin, I'd do that in a heartbeat. Just because they're averaging around the same amount of points, but you've got 9 more years left of Martin. 9 years younger for Martin. And with our dynasty model, that's what we're all about. So one of the reasons why I'm so excited for our platform to be out, because everyone can have these different opinions and you can change your team, and it's that balance between trying to win now and compete in the dynasty model as well. But yeah, that would be a trade I'd be looking to do when our transfer market gets up and running, which unfortunately we don't have a timeline on, but it is definitely in the works, and we can't wait to be able to produce that for everyone. But yeah, big one there with Mitch Duncan being my sell.
A few big sells here.
Yeah, went after Geelong as well. My goodness.
Yeah, I don't mind that at all. But guys, that's going to wrap us up for our review show of round 7. Thank you very much for coming this far with us as well. And please, if you haven't already, if you are watching, please do make sure you are subscribed so you don't miss anything that we do have. We do have plan on having a lot more really cool stuff coming out. Doss's takeaways from the round will be coming out very soon, as well as our preview show, which should be out on Thursday. So guys, as always, make sure you're staying game day ready. What?